Hi, my name is Helana Hoover Litty. I am a registered dietitian and a member of Sustainable Southbury. I'm here today to present some information on reducing food waste and saving some money at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So Sustainable Southbury is a volunteer organization in Southbury whose mission is to advance Southbury towards being a more sustainable and resilient community. We help by assisting and advising, educating, and driving action by municipal leaders, residents also, and businesses. Today's focus is on reducing waste, specifically food waste. So I'm going to talk today about ways to reduce food waste in the home and also save yourself some money at the same time. Imagine you go to your favorite grocery store and you come out with 4 bags of groceries, and then you immediately throw one of them in the trash. That's ridiculous, right? But that's what food waste looks like in this country every single day. In Connecticut, 20% of residential waste is from food. And food is too good to waste. Food costs money. It's not insignificant, the amount of money it costs to buy groceries every week. Food also costs money. Food that we waste costs money because we already spent money to plant the seeds and grow the food and fertilize the food and then pick the food and transport the food. So there is already a lot of other money spent even before we go to the grocery store to buy the food. But by making small changes in how we shop and store and prepare food, we can throw less away. We can still eat well and have a healthy diet. We can simplify our lives, less trips to the grocery store, and we can save money. This will also help keep these valuable resources that were used to produce and distribute food from going to waste. There are some easy steps to prevent food waste. Now, we're going to talk about all of these in today's talk, but steps like planning ahead, serving smart, knowing your portion sizes, loving your leftovers, and understanding the use by, sell by, and best by date labels. We all know those can be confusing. We want to talk a little bit about storing food safely, and then also composting instead of throwing your food into the municipal trash. So the first one on the list was planning. Plan your weekly meals ahead. This is a really good tip. It can help you use up food that you already have in the house and help you take advantage of foods that may be on sale at the grocery store. So the first thing is to see what you've already got. Look in your refrigerator, your freezer, your refrigerator. I already said that. Your cabinets, kitchen cabinets, wherever you store your food. What have you already got? Do you already have the ingredients to make spaghetti and meatballs? Well, write that down as one of your weekly meals. Or think about meals that you'd like to make. Do you have some recipes you want to try, or recipes that use up produce that you have? Right now, I've got a really large cabbage in my refrigerator, so I'm going to go and dig out that recipe that I have that uses a lot of cabbage, and then plan to use that in the coming week. Don't forget to think about your schedule. No sense planning a complicated meal if you're only going to be home around an hour for dinner time. That would be a great day to plan for a leftover meal. So the day before or a couple days before, you can make a larger dinner or casserole and plan to have leftovers on a busy night. Just heat and eat. Making a grocery list can save you time and also the frustration of not having the ingredients you need when you go to make the recipe. You can write your grocery list down in the order that you go shopping through the store, or keep it categorized by food groups, whatever makes the most sense to you. But by having a list, it will speed up your grocery trip, save you a little time, and also like I said, make sure you have the right number of lemons or whatever it is you need to buy for your recipes. You can build your shopping list as you go throughout the week. You can have a piece of scrap paper or a shopping list magnetically attached to your refrigerator or whatever, so that as you're using up things in the fridge, as you finish the last yogurt, someone can write down, oh, don't forget to get yogurt, or you open the last stick of butter, so you want to get more butter. Buying a combination of fresh, frozen, and non-perishable items is also really helpful. Fresh items have to be used up quickly. So if you have frozen items around, say some frozen chicken breasts or frozen vegetables, or any kind of soup that you might have made ahead and now stuck in the freezer later, those are great items to use later in the week. And also don't forget your non-perishable items. Diced canned tomatoes, canned fruit, tuna fish, pasta, rice, beans, all of those things keep a long time in the cupboard, and you can make them later in the week since they don't spoil. There's a really helpful website here we're going to go to now, My Plate Kitchen, it's called. This is from the USDA My Plate website, and My Plate Kitchen, as you can see, is one of the categories across the top. My Plate, the good thing about this website is that My Plate reflects the diet nutrition recommendations from the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. So like the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, it's updated every 5 years, so it's always current. The recipes and tips and helpful suggestions on this website are all aimed at helping you have a healthier diet, eating healthier foods, making healthier meals, and helping you know what is appropriate for whatever life stage you're in or you're cooking for people who are in. But this one for My Plate Kitchen is neat because they have recipes and you can save them. If you find one you really like, you can save it there to this website, to your account. And then you can also create cookbooks with those recipes. So you could have, easy lunch ideas or quick dinner idea cookbook, whatever your creativity can come up with, whatever you can come up with. They also change the recipes. This one is February's recipe of the month, but they have trending recipes or recipes that take 30 minutes or less to throw together, and that's really helpful. They suggest some seasonal favorites, taking advantage of foods available at this time of year. One of the suggestions I really like is like this basic quiche recipe down at the bottom. I mean, a quiche is great because you can, with some eggs and cheese, any kind of cheese. You can use Swiss cheese, you can use cheddar cheese, you can use American cheese, you can use mozzarella cheese, you can, any kind of cheese you have, and then any kind of vegetable you can put in it. You can put broccoli, you can put little bits of onion, you can use leftover roasted peppers, you can, whatever you have around. And then if you want to add some meat to it, you can, you don't have to, little bits of bacon or ham or some shrimp. Sometimes I put shrimp in a quiche. So it's a great recipe to have in your repertoire because it can help you use up leftovers that you have in the refrigerator. Another one that I use sometimes is called Clean Out the Fridge Fried Rice. So if you have leftover rice from another meal, then you just dice up and toss in a whole bunch of leftovers, scramble an egg, use some soy sauce, and then we call it fried rice. So it's a good use of leftovers. Okay. So another suggestion for cutting back on waste is being aware of portion sizes and serving smart. Portion control is good for your waistline and for reducing plate waste. So when we talk about plate waste, we're talking about the food that's left on the plate after a meal. So if you have a dinner or whatever meal, and then you scoop food on your plate or you serve people, and then at the end of the meal, when you're cleaning up, that's the food plate waste that you're scraping into the garbage. So we'd like to reduce plate waste. I mean, you can try a smaller serving or only preparing enough servings for the number of people at your meal. But also trying to encourage people to take smaller portions, and then if they're still hungry, they can go back for more. Again, the My Plate website has lots of information on healthy eating, including letting you know what a healthy food portion is for different life stages. Like I mentioned already, they have recipes and you can save them to your favorite cookbook, but they also have information on eating on a budget. So I'm going to go back to My Plate. And now I'm at the home page. Before I was over here at My Plate Kitchen, but now I'm at the home page, and you can take a quiz and create your account, which I would really recommend that you go ahead and do that. They have information on all the different food groups. So we'll just click here just to give you an idea. Vegetables. How many do you need? Why is it important to eat vegetables? What counts as 1 cup of vegetable? So I'm just scrolling down quickly just to get to, they have a table that gives you recommendations for people of different ages. So for myself, women, 60+ years, I need 2 to 3 cups of vegetables a day. Does that sound like a lot to you? I'm a good vegetable eater, but you have to work at getting in your healthy amount of fruits and vegetables. Most Americans don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, or don't eat the recommended amounts to be healthy. But you can see if you have children, depending on their age, I have a granddaughter, so between 5 and 8, she would need 1.5 to 2.5 cups a day. So it's just good to have some idea of how many portions and how much vegetables that you're going to need. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, to be sure to show you, is under Eat Healthy, they have tips and suggestions for healthy eating on a budget. So of course, cutting down on waste, food waste, is going to save us money. That's going to help our budget. But you can also do more to provide healthy meals for you and your family for less by knowing what foods are a good financial value, like what fruits are less expensive per serving, things like that. So there's an app for everything, but Shop Simple with My Plate is an app that you can put on your phone, but you can also use it from the computer. And it can help you find cost-saving opportunities in your local area. So that can be really useful when preparing budget-friendly, healthy meals. They also talk about making a plan and shopping smart, and some tips and tricks for making healthy family meals. All right, so we've covered portion sizes and serving smart. Along the same lines of portion sizes, here's another website. It's called SaveTheFoodcom, and they have this really fun app, which you can, again, put on your phone or use it from the website, but it's called a Guesstimator. So if you're having a party, or even like we have family dinner every week, you can estimate how much food you need to keep your guests happy and healthy. So I know for myself, if we're having, like, let's say I'm hosting Thanksgiving one year, then I think down and I write, okay, we're having a turkey, we're having stuffing, I write out the menu and I figure out what we're having. And then you can predict, it's predictable. I'm going to go, oh, you know what? Maybe that's not enough. Maybe I have to have another vegetable, or should I get more desserts? And then at the end, there is so much food left over. So this app will help you cut back on that. You just have to know who are you expecting, and you tell it who's coming or the size of eaters they are. And we'll go through this in a second. You choose your main dishes, your sides, and your desserts. And then it tells you how much you need of each item. It also gives you hints and tips and access to more recipes. So let's check this out. SaveTheFood.com. This is their homepage. 40% of all food in America is wasted. But today we're talking about food waste in the home. This 40% number refers to all food waste from the field, from the transportation process at the grocery store, in hospitals and restaurants, all the food that's wasted. But that's ridiculous amount of food. So here's the Guesstimator. We're going to click on this to get started, but they do also have an app for meal prepping. If I know some people do meal prepping to make their week easier, or if you're prepping your lunches for the whole week, you can use this. So you know how much food you need to buy for what you're planning. And then they have some information on planning, smarter planning. They have some information on storage tools, and they have recipes. And the interesting thing about some of these recipes is that they have recipes that use things that are like going bad, like overripe. How do you, a recipe that uses one overripe avocado? Or, I mean, everyone knows banana bread, right? Your bananas get mushy, you throw them in the freezer, and then someday you make banana bread. But they have recipes that help you use up product that you might otherwise throw away. All right, so let's get to the guesstimator. Where is it? So first you say, who are you expecting? So I'm going to do this for my family dinner every Sunday night. My granddaughter is little. She's a small eater, usually. Then I'd say myself, my husband, my daughter, her significant other. If my son is coming, he would be a big eater. And then maybe my brother's also going to stop in. So that's who I'm having for dinner. So how many leftovers do you want? And I'm going to say no. Because this app, even though it does help you determine how much food you need, it gives a generous portions. Okay, so then what kind of meal are you having? Classic dinner party, maybe you're having vegetarian meal, or a smorgasbord, a little bit of everything. I'm just going to say classic dinner. Now it's created a menu for me, some chicken, some rice, some veggies. I don't know what that is, a pie, ice cream. But you scroll down and you put in what you want. So I'm going to pull back the chicken just by clicking on it, pulls it up and back. I'm going to say that I'm going to make fish. And here they put up a tip. Slice fillets thinner to create a beautiful presentation and stretch your portions. That's a really good tip. If you put smaller portions of fish out, people will still take a portion rather than if you put, say, a 6-ounce piece of fish out, portion size. All right, so that's the main entree. We're just doing one. Now my sides. I'll take the casserole back. I'm going to have veggies, so I'll leave that there. I'll take back rice. I have potatoes from my local farm here, so I'm gonna need to use those up. And then I almost always have a salad, some kind of salad. Okay, does that seem good? Fish, veggie, salad, potato, sure. You can also, create your own side dish if you'd like, but just for demonstration today. So they had ice cream and a pie up there. So I will go ahead. I'm going to make a cobbler. So I'll put a cobbler up there. All right. So I think here we are, finalize the menu. So that looks all right. Good enough. And then it tells you how much you'll need to make. 7 guests, no leftovers. My main dish, fish. So they're doing a 6-ounce portion per serving, which is a generous fish serving. And their suggestion is to try a variety of hot dishes and room temperature dishes, so you don't have to worry about keeping every dish warm. That's a really good idea, really good suggestion. And some side dishes. So I'm having veggies, salad, and potatoes. They tell me I need 5.5 pounds of potatoes. And then they give you a tip. Leftover mashed potatoes or yams can be used on sandwiches in place of mayo or cheese. Oh, that's a good idea. Or for a salad, finely chopped lettuce and add shaved cabbage to give loft and texture to a green salad. So it's helpful. For desserts, I just need 1 cobbler because everyone's going to get a little more than 1/10 of a cobbler. Based on a 9-inch round pan, so that's good. And their tip is to create individual cobblers by baking in muffin tins. That's not a bad idea. You could bake it in a muffin tin or maybe a little Pyrex dish, so everyone could have their own. All right, so I have this. So I think that's helpful, especially to get you started figuring out approximately how much food you need, because you really don't want to have to just throw things away. Because you prepared too much food, or you can't eat it because it's too many leftovers for you, or if you left it out too long, then it wouldn't be safe to eat. So love your leftovers is our next tip. So what do you do with leftovers? Do you plan ahead so to have leftovers, or are you someone that doesn't really care to have leftovers? I mean, that will all make a difference in how you plan your weekly meals. But if you have leftovers, it's a good idea to pack them in smaller portions in shallow containers. Let's say we made a whole lasagna for family dinner, and I still have half a lasagna left. That's more than my husband and I can eat in one sitting. So I'm going to pack it into meal-sized portions. And the suggestion for shallow containers is so that it cools quickly when you put it in the refrigerator. And also will help it thaw quickly when you have to take it out if you end up freezing it. It's a good idea to mark the contents and the date, especially if you can't see in the container, and then refrigerate and use within 3 to 4 days, or freeze it. And if you're going to freeze it right away. So it will retain as much freshness as possible. Here's another app, the FoodKeeper app. It's an app that helps you decide or to learn how long you can keep foods. How long will this keep in my fridge? Is it really still good? Is it safe? So we'll just, it's an app, but it's also available on a web page. I really like all these pictures of these bowls of different colored foods up here. It's really cute. But you can see they have categories of food: baby food, baked goods, beverages, condiments, sauces, and canned goods. So let's just check that out. Okay, so then we can go, let's say barbecue sauce, homemade canned, or barbecue sauce bottled. For freshness and quality, this item should be consumed within 1 year if it's in the pantry from the date of your purchase. Refrigeration ensures that commercial sauces and condiments stay fresh for a longer period of time. Shelf-stable commercial barbecue sauce is safe when stored at room temperature after opening. It's a quality and not a safety issue is the reason the label on these products suggests that they might be refrigerated after opening. All right, so you don't have to panic if you leave it out. And it's just that it will keep longer if it's refrigerated. So if you refrigerate it, after opening it will keep for 4 months. Right, so then we can just go back. You could look at another category, but it's like this. So this app can help you. Oh, how long can I keep this stuff in my house? Homemade cranberry sauce, or cooking wine, or chutney, or we're still in the condiment category, like meats or produce. How long can I keep things? It's really helpful to know. I mean, I think sometimes we just keep them until they spoil, but it's really good to have some idea. All right, that's helpful. So some tips for shopping. We already talked about planning meals for the week. So it's a good idea to plan before you go shopping so that you know what you need to prepare those meals. And go ahead and plan for the entire week. So you just have one shopping trip and save yourself some time and gas money. Buy only what you need for those meals. If you've planned out your meals and your snacks, for the week, then you should be good just buying what's on your list. That will also help you save money by not picking up extra purchases. Make sure you include quantities on your shopping list. I am guilty of writing down that I needed Roma tomatoes for a recipe, so I wrote Roma tomatoes, and then I got to the store and I thought, I wonder how many I needed. Oh, probably 3. That sounds good. And then I got home and it turns out I needed 4. Or I do the same thing with lemons for some reason. I write down lemons and then I think, oh, 1 will be plenty. 1 is good. It's a big lemon. And it turns out I needed the juice of 2 lemons and a ton of lemon zest. So I had to go back to the store. So really the goal is to save yourself some time and money by planning your meals before you go shopping and putting quantities on your list. I mean, you can write something like, for example, salad greens, enough for 2 lunches, so if that's all you want salad greens for. Another tip is to be wary of promotions. We all know that, those sale promotions can really be a cost savings. But if you purchase too many of an item and it spoils before you can use it, then you really didn't save any money. The other week, ShopRite had navel oranges on sale. It was a 4-pound bag, so that's okay. But you had to buy 2 bags in order to get the sale price. And I almost did it, but 8 pounds of navel oranges, that's a lot. And I'm really the only orange eater in the house. So I'm pretty sure by the time I got to the end of that, I'd be really sick of oranges. So I didn't. I just bought a couple oranges because I actually have other fruit at home that I should be eating. Try to avoid impulse and bulk purchases. I mean, we all go down the aisle and pick some, oh yes, look at that, that looks good. But especially if it's produce and dairy or things that spoil quickly, then you want to try to avoid doing that. Or have a plan for using it. Just basically don't buy more food than can be used before it spoils. And I think the other tip that we all know or have heard before is don't go shopping when you're hungry. To me, it sounds like that shouldn't really be a problem, but honestly, I've gone to the store hungry and man, so much more and food ends up in my cart. So we want to talk a little bit about the use by, sell by, and best if used by date labels that are on a lot of our different foods. These dates indicate quality and not safety. There are no standards, federal standards for date labels, with one exception. Use by, the use by label is required by the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, for infant formula. So an infant formula has a date on it that says used by such and such a date. After that date, that formula should be thrown away. Infant formula, the nutritional quality of infant formula breaks down and degrades over time. And that's why that date is on there, because you do not want to be feeding an infant formula that's not giving them appropriate nutrition. I mean, infancy is so important in nutrition for appropriate growth and development. But that is the only date label required by the Food and Drug Administration. But companies just put these dates on their food and they can call them whatever they want. Best if used by dates are really about quality and not safety. So if this loaf of bread is best if used by Thursday, then sure, it's still fresh, it still tastes good. And that, that date determination was made by the company that made the bread. Legislation has been introduced in the House of Representatives and in the Senate to standardize date labeling, to try to get food companies to just use best if used by on their products, because that kind of that term makes sense, right? This can of pineapple is best if used by whatever date, but it doesn't mean that after that date that pineapple isn't just fine. With a long time after that date, the pineapple might start to get mushy. I don't know what else would happen to it, but same thing with tuna fish, all kinds of canned products. So it's important for consumers to understand that that's not like a drop dead date. These are just recommendations. The term sell by is most commonly seen on dairy products like milk. I see when I buy milk, it says sell by, let's say it says sell by Tuesday. I'm sure it's a date, but whatever. That I know from my experience that milk that I like to buy is going to be perfectly fine for 5 to 7, if not longer, days at my house. Now, how long a perishable product like milk lasts does depend on how you handle it. Are you putting it in a hot car in the summer and then stopping for T-ball and then coming back to it and going home? Or, if you keep it cold, put it in an insulated bag and put it in your fridge and don't just let it sit out on the counter for extended period of time, then these perishable products will last. So there's no law that says the grocery store has to pull down products if it says sell by Tuesday and it's Wednesday. There's nothing wrong with that product. 84% of consumers at least occasionally discard food close to or past the date on the label because they think it's not good. 37% of consumers always or usually discard food close to or past to the date on the label. So with few exceptions, safety is really just best judged by smell, appearance, and taste. I mean, we all know what that pre-bagged salad looks like when it's not good anymore, right? Starting to get a little slimy, Yeah, we need to get rid of that. But if it looks perfectly fine and it's past the date, then it's fine to eat. If you want to get rid of your food after that date, then my suggestion to you is don't buy so much food. Buy a smaller amount of food that you can use up before the date on the products. So now that we have all this food and we went to the grocery store and we followed our tips, we made a list, we bought what we needed, we're home, we're going to store the food, put it away. So in the refrigerator, we want to avoid overpacking. Cold air needs to circulate around refrigerated foods to keep them properly chilled. I am guilty of overstuffing my refrigerator for sure, especially when I come home from my CSA pickup and I have all this produce. But it really, I'm sure you've probably had the experience where you put a head of lettuce or something kind of fragile in the back corner against the edge, so air wasn't circulating and it actually froze. So could be that your refrigerator is set too cold, but it's probably because the air wasn't able to circulate around it. Check your fridge pretty often. See if there's food in there that needs to be used up soon. And if there is, move it to the front. Or if there's food that isn't good, rotate food around. If something has a current best by or use date closer, you want to move it to the front so your kids see it, so your husband see it, so whatever is there, you just remember and snack on it or something. If you have to buy containers, if you need refrigerator containers, then clear ones are really nice because you can actually see what's in the container. I don't have clear containers for the most part, but I have a smaller refrigerator now, so it actually makes it harder to lose food in there. We want to avoid contamination from the refrigerator. This is a food safety tip, but I'm sure many of you have put a package of meat in the refrigerator only to have it leak out, and then it gets all over the shelf, and hopefully it wasn't on the top shelf and leaked through to other foods, but this happens sometimes. So it's a really nice idea to put raw meat in a container, on a plate, in a dish, in your refrigerator, and store it on the bottom of your refrigerator. The bottom of your refrigerator is actually colder than the top shelf, so that will help keep it, preserve it longer, keep it fresher longer. But also, if it does leak, you're catching it in a container, or at least it's not leaking down through all the other foods in your refrigerator. There are safe minimum cooking temperatures, since we're on the topic of food safety. Poultry, leftovers, and casserole need to be cooked to 165 degrees to be safe. But seafood is 145 degrees. So different foods require different temperatures, and you can find this information on the USDA website. Literally just Google it, it'll pop right up. You could have a little chart if you want to. Sometimes it's nice to have thermometers in the kitchen, an instant read thermometer for cooking that you can just poke into whatever you're making and it tells you the temperature. That can be really helpful. Because you don't want to overcook either, because then it's, makes it more tough. But you definitely want to make sure you cook it enough to kill any bacteria that might make someone sick from eating it. Okay. Ethylene gas, yikes, that sounds scary, but it's not really. Ethylene gas is just natural. It's released from some fruits and vegetables, and it actually causes them to ripen faster. Some fruits and vegetables are more sensitive to ethylene. So for example, bananas. As bananas start to ripen, they release ethylene gas, and then that causes them to ripen even faster. Do you ever notice that? Like those bananas are almost green when you bring them home, and they're still green, they're slowly getting ripe, and then somehow over 2 days, the whole bunch is almost too ripe. So if that's from ethylene gas. So the reason you should care about it is we don't want all of our produce to suddenly become overripe and spoil. So then that could result in food waste and extra expense for us. So one suggestion is to separate foods that produce ethylene gas from those that are sensitive to ethylene gas. And this is just a partial list of those foods. So honestly, my refrigerator only has 2 produce drawers. So I have one for fruit and one for vegetables, ethylene or not, that's where you're going to go. So I found a really easy solution to this problem. I'm not saying it's something everyone wants to do, but my refrigerator, I recently got a new refrigerator. It came with a ethylene absorbing packet, and I had never seen this. And I just thought, oh, can't believe it, something else they want to sell me. But I eventually opened it and stuck it in the fruit drawer, and it lasts for like 3 months. I was like amazed. My fruit really did keep really, really well. So not like I did a controlled study or anything, but it seemed to really help. So I went online to try to get a replacement, but I couldn't find it. And I was really looking for something more, I didn't want to replace the whole cartridge and everything every time. So I found this on Amazon, and there's a lot of options that you can use. It's called Blue Apple. Obviously, it's a Blue Apple, but it opens up, and you put a little packet in there, and it absorbs ethylene gas in your produce drawer for 3 months. And you can just buy the refill packets. So I like that aspect of it. And they'll even send you an email reminder when 3 months is up. So that's also helpful for me anyway. And then the packet can actually be, they suggest that you can open up and put it around your house plants. It's like a fertilizer. So I will just totally add it to my compost pile. And it's not very expensive. So I think I certainly is less expensive than the value of the fruit and veggies I would have to throw away because they weren't fresh. Just a suggestion. All right, so now storing food in the freezer. I don't really label stuff in my refrigerator. I go through stuff pretty quick, but in the freezer, actually, I don't always label in the freezer, and I always regret it. I think, oh, I can remember what kind of soup I made and put in this container. And then I'm telling you, I open the lid, I can't decide if it was beef stock or is it beef barley soup, or because I can't see through the container either. But I think it's easy for everyone to forget what's in that freezer bag or freezer container, but also how long it's been in the freezer. Time flies. So put a date on it just so you have some idea how long things have been. If say a whole chicken, the recommendation is that you don't store it for longer than a year in the freezer, but it's still perfectly safe and fine to eat after that year. It might have some freezer burn on it, especially if you have a self-defrosting freezer, but there's no food safety problems as long as your freezer has been operating. If you can freeze in small flat bags or packages, that's great because it's so much easier to stack and then see what you have. I don't even think this freezer is real because who is that organized? I don't know, probably someone. And then take advantage of your freezer. Freezing like leftovers such as soups or stews or saucy casseroles like enchiladas or lasagnas, they really freeze well in the freezer. I have one I make with eggplant a casserole that I make with eggplant and sometimes some sausage in there. Oh, it freezes great. I make a bunch of them when eggplant is in season, and then take them out during the winter and bake them. If you wrap breads and other baked goods, they also freeze really well. So if you bake muffins, you make a dozen muffins, like in my household, there's only 2 of us. We really don't need to eat a dozen muffins in a couple days. So we'll put some of them in the freezer in a bag, maybe 2 muffins per bag or 4 muffins. So then we'll take them out and eat them in the following months. You can also freeze fruit, sliced fruit, firm cheeses, freeze pretty well. Soft cheeses don't come out very well. So I've never tried to freeze something like cottage cheese or cream cheese, but from what they say, they don't come out the same as they went in. So your freezer is your friend. Some quick safety tips before we finish up today. Remember the 2-hour rule. Don't leave perishable foods out at room temperature for more than 2 hours unless you're keeping hot foods hot and cold foods cold. So if you have a dish of ice underneath your macaroni salad at a picnic, or you have a hot plate that can keep your casserole or your entrees warm, you need to pay attention to the time. If you're eating outdoors, let's say a summer barbecue and the temperature is above 90 degrees, perishable foods shouldn't be left out for more than 1 hour. That's a food safety tip. We don't want people getting sick from eating foods at the house. If you go to someone else's picnic, I mean, honestly, I'm that person I am right up there in the beginning when it's time to eat. I'm going to get my plate and eat my food before it's sat out for too long. And then if you have spills in the kitchen, just wipe them up quickly. That will reduce bacterial growth and cross-contamination that might happen between different food items. There's a link on here we're not going to go to today, but you can go to this link on your own time and find some tips on how to cut food waste and also still maintain food safety. So as you approach the problem of reducing food waste in your home, here are some general tips that can help. Just start to be aware of how much food you throw away. I mean, everyone's going to be throwing away some kind of food, right? I mean, I don't eat the banana peel. I throw the core of the apple away. I had a pear the other day with a bad spot in it, so there is food that's going to be thrown away, but not as much as we currently throw away as a country. So before you mindlessly toss something, think about whether you can use it in another recipe. Like that half cup of rice could go into lunch for tomorrow, or leftover vegetables can always be added to a pot of soup. And if you don't have soup or you're not opening a can of soup, just toss them in the freezer. I have a container that I keep in my freezer just for soup stuff. So if I have like 1 spoonful of leftover broccoli from dinner, I just chop it up and throw it in that container and it's in the freezer. And then later I might add some leftover mushrooms from something else. And then someday I make vegetable soup and I just dump that whole container in it. You can track your waste. That can be a fun activity, especially if you have kids and get everyone involved. Look at what lands in the trash and see how you can cut back. So progress is really satisfying. And then you can see it translate into savings. The average family of 4 loses nearly $1,500 a year to uneaten food. That's $375 a person. Oh, that's so much. So if you have food that you're not going to use before the expiration date, even though I told you it's perfectly fine and safe to use, you can also donate it. I mean, maybe you took advantage of that can sale and bought the 3 cases of diced tomato from ShopRite in January, but you still have 2.5 cases in the fridge, in the cupboard, and it's summer, it might be a good idea to donate those before that date. And then as a last resort, try to compost leftover food scraps. Now, not everyone has the ability to compost depending on where you live or whether you want to have compost, a compost pile in your yard or compost container, but consider it as an option. Sustainable Southbury is working with the town of Southbury to try to get municipal composting started in town. So that's something to look forward to. So I want to thank you for attending today and listening to me talk about ways to reduce food waste. And if anyone has any questions, they could be put into the chat. And I see that one already came up while I was talking. And it's a question about freezing, thawing, and then freezing and re-thawing, refreezing foods. So yes, you can say take a frozen roast or a frozen chicken and thaw it and cook it, and then have leftover chicken, meat, or roast, and then make packets and refreeze it. Those will be great. Excuse me. Also, even with a casserole, like a lasagna or an eggplant, like I mentioned, you can thaw that whole casserole and cook it, and then just eat part of it and refreeze what is left. The more times you thaw and freeze something, though, you will start to lose quality. food quality, not food safety, and not really even nutrition, but that lasagna noodles are going to get mushier and mushier and stuff like that. So it's perfectly safe to do that, and it's a great way to cut down on leftovers. I mean, on food waste by freezing leftovers. We have another question about the date on eggs. So that date is also just a suggestion to when that egg is the best quality, even though it says used by such and such a date. But because an egg is porous, excuse me, air can go in and moisture can come out. So with time, the egg white won't be quite as firm. It'll be more runny, but it's still safe to eat and nutritious. If you're concerned or you're getting to that date and you don't know if you really want to keep them, you can always hard boil an egg. Then a hard boiled egg keeps 4 or 5 days in the refrigerator before you peel it. So that kind of extends its amount of freshness. So I want to thank you. And I hope to see you again at some other webinars that we'll be offering.